never heard of a killer. I drop bombs like Hiroshima.
So I said, look at LeakYou video. What the fuck is LeakYou? Is it like a site? What's LeakYou? LeakYou. Is it a YouTube channel? Oh shit. All right, bet. Here we go.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
One, two, three, four.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. I hope you're having a fantastic day. We're going to get into the events that are occurring in Bolivia. What I've been told is an attempted coup d'etat. But before, I want to talk about Julian Assange. His legal battle has now come to an end. He has landed in Australia, officially pretty much a free man at this point, although he's been barred from, coming to the United States without permission. But the saga, the 14-year legal saga of Wikileaks and Julian Assange is now officially over. He arrived in Canberra after being released from prison, and then also pled guilty to violating the U.S. espionage law at a court in the U.S. Pacific Island territory of Saipan on Wednesday morning. This plea deal, so to speak, left him free to return home to Australia and brought an end to this pretty much extraordinary 14-year legal battle that's been ongoing between Assange and the U.S. government. He was sentenced to time served with no supervisory period or financial penalty, although he does have to pay back the United States for the charter flight that he took from Saipan to Australia. It was, from my understanding, this one trip, $540,000. Pretty expensive trip. He did speak to reporters outside the Saipan court, and his lawyers called the prosecution unprecedented and an assault on free speech, but ultimately agreed that the fight had came to an end. Assange spent 5 years in a high-security jail and 7 years at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, continually battling extradition to the United States, where he faced officially 18 charges. Now, his wife, Stella, welcomed his arrival back to Australia, and did release a statement as such, quote, "Julian needs time to recover, to get used to freedoms. Someone told me yesterday, who had been through something similar, that freedom comes slowly. And I want Julian to have that space to rediscover freedom slowly and quickly." Now, Assange's lawyer, Barry Pollock, also thanked the former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, who's now serving as the Australian ambassador to the United States, along with the current serving Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. And Assange, the video that you may be seeing floating all over the net was of him greeting his wife, obviously, but Albanese had taken up this issue with U.S. President Joe Biden, and it seemed like things started moving after his conversation with Biden. And of course, Stella, Julian Assange's wife, is asking supporters for help in covering that massive debt for the charter flight, or $500,000, because he wasn't allowed, you all, to fly on a commercial airline. He had to take the charter flight. It was like we were going to stick it to him one way or the other, right? I don't know. There's been a lot of back and forth about this plea deal, so to speak. Some feel that he got off easy, and some feel that he's done his time. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the United States did not appreciate being exposed and having top secret classified material showing up on the WikiLeaks website. And WikiLeaks has now been, as you all may know, disbanded, decommissioned, so to speak. But yeah, it's over. It's over. No more having to stay in the embassy, can't step foot outside the embassy or he'll be arrested, that sort of a thing. All of that is now over. So get ready. I'm sure we'll see a 2020 or 60 Minutes interview, something of that nature. It'll be very interesting. But you all, one of the things to think about here is all of this classified material, right? When we think about people that have hacked the United States, may have been prosecuted, may not have been prosecuted. Um, eh, I just feel like at this point, you all be very careful what you do out there, especially when you're at war. All right. Don't shoot innocent people. Don't kill innocent people, that sort of a thing. And that's really a lot of the exposure that the United States got was from behaviors from soldiers who were in Iraq, shooting, killing civilians. And amazingly, although a lot of that was exposed, there was no subsequent prosecution of those that were exposed for killing innocent civilians. Okay. So yeah, that saga is now officially over. Now on to Bolivia. Bolivia. There has been, I should say, there is an ongoing coup d'etat attempt that's taking place in Bolivia currently. The president of Bolivia spoke not too long ago and said pretty much, that we as the people, Bolivian people, cannot allow a coup d'etat to take the lives of innocent Bolivian, people. But listen, soldiers stormed the presidential palace in an attempt to flip power in Bolivia. The presidential palace was stormed by soldiers during this unfolding coup, and this unfolding coup that seems to be still underway. And the president, Luis Arce, has demanded from a general to stand down these troops, which seem to have taken over parts of central La Paz. This apparent coup attempt was immediately denounced by the leaders of Mexico and Honduras. Former President Evo Morales called on supporters of democracy to strike and block roads. So this seems to indicate that this was a prepared coup d'etat. And rumors have been swirling for days that this General Zuniga was on the verge of being dismissed. The military chief appeared on television this past Monday and said he would arrest Mr. Morales if he ever ran for office again. And this is former President Morales. So seems to be General Zuniga is not happy with the current power that's in play in Bolivia. Okay. The Bolivian minister published a video on her Facebook account showing the view from a window from a government building as she was witnessing this coup attempt, and had this to say, quote, "I'm in the palace of the people. And as you can see, this is the Plaza Mario taken by armed tanks and troops. We understand it is a faction of the military." She said that military units had taken positions at all four corners of the square and was not letting anyone enter, and that this operation had been launched in a totally irregular manner. Now, Mr. Morales, the first president to come from Bolivia's indigenous majority, carried out a radical program after winning power back in 2005. Aimed at addressing extreme social divisions and inequalities. And now, the former coca union leader resigned in 2019 after attempting to bypass the Constitution and seek a fourth term in power. He was then succeeded by opposition Senator Janine Áñez, who declared herself the interim president back in November 2019. Mr. Arce later won the presidential election back in October 2020, returning the Maz Socialist Party into power. But I want to take a look at some of these videos that's coming out of Bolivia, if that's okay with you all. Give me just a moment here. I'd like to take y'all, this is actually quite stunning. Give me a moment here. And just take a look at X, twitter.com, now known as X. Let's take a look here at some of these videos. Now, here's the thing. With a coup or a coup d'etat, a lot of times you'll see those that have military power, attempt these coups. I even heard at one point that this military faction created a whole new cabinet.
Indicaba nuevamente el vehículo está entrando esta tanqueta prácticamente a Casa Grande, a Palacio Quemado, está ingresando, ha roto prácticamente la puerta de este vehículo que está fuertemente armado, ha roto la puerta, hay bastante uso de agentes químicos en este sector. Ustedes observan cómo ha quedado la puerta. Usted indicaba nuevamente el vehículo.
Wow.
Pongámonos un hipotético caso, ¿ya? Que Evo Morales llegue a ser presidente el año 2025. ¿Usted qué va a hacer?
Well, you all, this is something you'll want to keep your eyes on. I don't know if we have any English subtitles for any of this, but
Miren dónde nos han llevado. Nuestros niños
is that
no tienen
General
futuro.
Zuniga
El pueblo no tiene futuro. Y el
being
ejército
protected?
no le falta cojones para velar por el mañana de nuestros niños, por el futuro de nuestros niños. Nosotros queremos establecer la democracia.
Stunning, you all. Look at that. That's crazy. To pull something like that off, folks, to pull something like that off takes balls of steel, okay? But it's obvious the general has some power there. And what happens? What ends up happening to those that participate in coup d'etats? It really depends on the country that it occurs at, or if they are successful and manage to split Bolivia. Some coup d'etats have been successful, where those that are vying for power manage to get that power and create whole, factions of countries. Hey, Emmanuel, how you doing? Definitely want to keep your eyes on this. And also in Kenya as well. Yes, yes, yes. Yep. We just talked about a coup attempt over there in which two Americans, well, actually, there was three Americans involved. There was a father, a son, and another individual. The father was shot and killed during the coup attempt. The son and the other individual are still in Kenyan authorities, behind the bars, essentially. But a lot of times, we always hear about like the death penalty being enacted on those that try coups, and it really, really depends on where the coup is happening, what country, right? They're caught, that sort of thing. So something to definitely keep your eyes on, folks. This world is it's getting kind of scary out there. I'll be the first to admit that. It's getting pretty damn scary. But General Andre Zuniga, you'll be hearing that name quite a lot, folks, as time, goes on. But you all, I will be back later. I want to talk about this Boeing whistleblower, or this Boeing, just Boeing, 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 Boeing. A lot of mystery surrounds Boeing right about now. As you all know, they make aircraft, right? And there's been several whistleblowers that have been blowing the lid on quite a few different things, everything down from the way paperwork is being handled down to the way planes, are being built. And a whistleblower recently died, allegedly from suicide. But this whistleblower had been very adamant and vocal that if he died, I don't believe it was a suicide because, he would never do that. And this isn't the first whistleblower that has died under very mysterious circumstances when it comes to Boeing, very powerful company. Would you believe it if I told you that Boeing has made some very top secret aircraft in their attempt to try to get anti-gravity propulsion off the ground? Lockheed and Boeing. Oh, yes, yes. If you haven't had an opportunity, you should go watch the Sean Ryan show in the episode with Michael Herrera. He talked about an incident in which he was in Indonesia, and him and a few other individuals was performing a task, so to speak. And while performing said task, they come upon a hovering disc. But it wasn't aliens in that disc, it was human beings. And these human beings also had an armed patrol. And this armed patrol, this very trained armed patrol, actually walked up to Michael Herrera and his group, the group that he was with. And keep in mind, he was official U.S. military at the time. I believe he's a Marine. Um, but essentially took their guns, looked at their IDs, all that. Very, very well trained, as Michael Herrera said. While all the while, this disc continued to just hover right in front of him. A platform even descended from this disc in which several large crates were being rolled onto this platform to then be lifted back into this hovering disc that was hovering very, very silently and very quietly. And once it loaded up its cargo, which it's allegedly been assumed that its cargo was humans. Um, Again, this craft operated by humans. You see, the one thing that I would say the holy grail that everyone is looking for, all of the aircraft manufacturers and anyone, even our government has been seeking anti-gravitation technology, the ability to harness gravity and work against gravity in order to move a craft to and fro. Instantaneous, an instant ride. I want to go to South America. We'll have you there in 2 minutes. That sort of a thing. Instead of it taking however many hours, right, on a plane. Element 115, also known as Moscovium. The hunt for element 115 is absolutely real. And when I tell you that these aircraft manufacturers like Boeing and Lockheed, they are just as tight in it with some of their departments like the government's tight with, top secret, compartmentalized, um, the way they compartmentalize things, the secrecy around these things, and a lot. These aircraft manufacturers, they have a lot going on like that as well. Um, there's been several people that have died being associated to Boeing and Lockheed. Whistleblow, whether they were blowing the whistle on how craft were being put together or how money was being spent. That we've had quite a few people die. Okay. So let's just be very clear about that. Um, but the hunt for element 115 is a very real thing. It's considered like the holy grail. If you had a piece of element 115, you could probably sell it for whatever number you put on it, right? You probably wouldn't be able to sell it without somebody, figuring you out sort of a thing. Hey, third eye. But yeah, skunk works. Exactly, Emmanuel. Exactly. It's scary. And the contracts that Lockheed and Boeing have with the government, I mean, they're in there deep, deep. Crisscross applesauce, holding hands, finger beside finger type stuff, right? Um, it's pretty crazy, but we cannot overlook the fact that there are people dying who are trying to bring attention to these flaws in the craft, right? These flaws that could have absolute devastating consequences. Okay. And just as an example, we had another whistleblower come forward today, right? That has alleged that parts of Boeing's 787 Dreamliner, the planes, were built in an unsafe manner. So there was a mechanic, contractor essentially for Boeing manufacturer partner Spirit, who claims that he witnessed holes that were improperly drilled into the forward pressure bulkheads of 787 planes. And this was at Spirit's Everett, Washington facility as recent as 2021, just a few years ago. Now, the bulkhead is one of the primary parts of an airplane's body and is absolutely crucial for keeping the structure of a plane intact while it's in the air. So you can see why it's quite important that we allow whistleblowers to blow the whistle if there's something systematically happening that needs to be addressed. You know, they can't be getting plucked off, okay, and killed. Now, Boeing had said that they had previously investigated this mechanic's claims, and they said that these holes did not pose a safety problem. Um, but some would disagree with that. All right. Now the company has said it, Boeing has said it's reviewing these allegations in more depth after this mechanic came forward through an attorney and sort of voiced these claims more publicly. Seems like it always takes some sort of a public plea. And I don't understand that. I don't understand that. But this mechanic claimed that workers were drilling holes slightly larger than Boeing's specifications to clear excess paint from the holes, just to speed up a slow process. Now, trying to speed up this slow process could compromise power, air pressure on the plane, and creates not only a safety risk, but a risk of possible death. Okay. I don't want to die in a plane crash. And I know it's impossible to ensure that every single plane in the world lands. There's going to be, a crash here and there, but man, there should not be crashes due to absolute ignorance and just stupidity on the part of the manufacturers. It's just the money that they make, folks. The money. I mean, I know that airlines buy the planes, right? But ultimately, at the end of the day, we all know everything's getting higher, more expensive. You bought a plane ticket recently? Oh, God forbid you have an emergency, and need to fly within 24 or 48 hours. Probably out half a grand easily, right? But the fact that Boeing has an ethics hotline, just think about that for a second. All the scandals that have followed Boeing. And the fact that he witnessed this on multiple planes. How many planes made it through the line? Made it through the production line and are now in the air with these holes. It's the little things, folks. It's the little things. It's like with the Challenger space shuttle. It was the O-ring, right? It's the little things that cause wide, catastrophic disasters. Before I get up out of here, folks, allow me to pay a few bills if you don't mind. Shout out to the LeakYou community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
right, guys. Before we get up out of here, let me give you a little bit of an update here on what's going down in Bolivia. It appears that this coup attempt is being deemed a failure. Armored vehicles that rammed into the doors of Bolivia's government palace, which we've seen earlier, have apparently backed out and are now leaving this particular palace. The president has actually, it appears, General Zuniga is leading this rebellion. And now the president has told General Zuniga that he is the captain and has ordered Zuniga to withdraw all of his soldiers and that he will not allow this type of insubordination. Now, before entering the government building, Zuniga had told journalists that were there in that plaza that there will be a new cabinet of ministers, that our country, our state cannot go on like this. And he said that for now, he recognizes Luis Arce as the commander-in-chief, but did not explicitly say he's actually leading the coup. But inside of the palace, he said that the army was trying to, quote, restore democracy and free our political prisoners. So you take that and digest it. We'll see what else happens. Hopefully there will be no loss of life during this coup attempt. Much love, everyone. Thanks to everyone who came through. Until next time, folks.
The judgment sentence that you are an asshole. The trial is over. Thank you, everybody.
Let's play a game. You have 10 seconds to take all your stuff and get out of my life. 10, 9, 8.
God bless you, motherfucker.
You're really smart. Like really, really, really smart like I am.